That's right, baby. We're talking about Friday the 13th tonight. So I feel like this is probably the highlight of the month, right? I mean, a new Halloween film coming out it's big. It's an event. It's something that should be celebrated. Horror is seeing a lot of returning icons these days, but Michael Myers is special because without him, horror really wouldn't be what it is today. The first Halloween film is so influential, and it's synonymous with the holiday at this point. This is a little known fact that you may not know, but the movie's called Halloween because the holiday is called Halloween, so it was named after the holiday. But Halloween really changed the horror game when it came out. But why exactly? Well, I'm glad I acted like you asked so I can make this video. If you don't know, Halloween is the iconic horror film following Michael Myers, an escaped mental patient who comes back to his hometown, Haddonfield, Illinois, not a real place, on Halloween night, and he kills people. That's the movie. It's really no more complex than that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be. The general plot, by the way. The characters and themes have a little more to them, but for the most part, the film's just about a maniac killing people. The film came out in 1978 and was huge, and faced a lot of controversy for its shocking violence. Which is weird because, yes, while he's killing people, there's no real blood or gore or viscera or like anything at all. It's going back to it, it's really interesting because it's so tame in comparison to now.
Say something. Oh my God.
The film was directed by John Carpenter, who is called the master of horror for a reason. But what's interesting is he's a man who wears his influences on his sleeve, and he has no real ego. He is, by every definition of the word, a blue-collar filmmaker. If you look at his filmography, you see a lot of indie projects and a lot of studio projects, but the spirit in all of his films remains mostly the same. What do you mean, Ghosts of Mars? That's not a movie. You're making that up. Vampires? Huh. Nobody would name a movie just Vampires. That's silly. Memoirs of an Invisible Man? Never seen it. Get it? Because it's invisible. Despite how weird his films got toward the end of his filmmaking career, his legacy remains the same, and what makes him such a respectable and interesting filmmaker has never changed. His first film, Dark Star, was a college project that wound up being expanded and released theatrically. It's a ridiculous movie that's stupid a little bit, but you cannot deny the charm. But the attention from that allowed him to make his next film, Assault on Precinct 13, a white-hot night of hate. I'm definitely gonna make a video about it sometime in the future. It's a fantastic film with lots of great and iconic moments.
I wanted vanilla twist.
And that caught the attention of indie film producers Irwin Yablans and Mustafa Akkad, who contacted John Carpenter and actually asked for a movie about a serial killer murdering babysitters. See, in the 70s, the big thing in film was exploitation. It was a genre. Exploitation films were largely characterized by graphic and shocking content and very small budgets. These always made a profit and spread through word of mouth. Films like I Spit on Your Grave are really good examples. A film about a woman taking revenge on 3 men that sexually assaulted her. She kills them all in brutal, graphic ways, all shown on screen without any restraint. These were big money makers and, weirdly enough, crowd pleasers back in the day. They had this real grimy, do-it-yourself charm to them, and their sensational handling of taboo subjects led to the stigma around handling these concepts in film getting knocked down a shit ton of pegs. In 1974, there were two notable examples of exploitation-esque films: Black Christmas and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, everyone knows what it is. It wound up becoming iconic in its own right. But the film we need to talk about when talking about Halloween is Black Christmas, directed by Bob Clark. The film follows a group of sorority girls slowly getting picked off one by one by a vague maniac slasher. The film is very stylish and uses a host of interesting techniques in terms of presentation. Director Bob Clark showed us things from the killer's point of view at times. The film is a slow burn, and by the end only one woman remains, the only one with enough strength and resolve to survive. Black Christmas is worth talking about because a lot of the techniques in it were used in Halloween. Like I said, Carpenter is a man who wears his influences on his sleeve. Carpenter actually met with Black Christmas director Bob Clark during the writing process for Halloween. Black Christmas was a film Carpenter loved, and he asked Bob Clark if he had any ideas for a sequel. Clark expressed having no interest in doing a sequel, but he said if there was one, it would involve the killer from the first movie escaping from a mental institution, returning to that house, and starting the process all over again. Do you see where I'm going with this? Now let's make a few things clear. No, Carpenter did not rip Bob Clark or Black Christmas off. Carpenter is very open about these connections, and Bob Clark has gone on to say that Carpenter made Halloween completely his own. But it's important to talk about this and learn the history of it when examining why Halloween wound up so iconic and influential. Carpenter took these notes and things he loved about Black Christmas already to make Halloween what it was, and that is a perfect distillation of what made Black Christmas and exploitation in general so effective. The film opens with a long point of view sequence made to look like one shot. We see a young couple in a house fooling around. The person we're experiencing this all through then picks up a mask, a knife, and goes and kills the young girl. It's only when the killer goes outside and is unmasked that we see it was a young boy. In fact, the girl's sister, Michael Myers. Crazy twist opening, and it really sets the tone for what we're about to see. Slow, methodical, and agonizingly suspenseful. This was Carpenter's style anyway, but here it feels much more sinister and effective than his other films, and that's because of some of the themes we're dealing with as well. See, with horror, there's this weird need to over-explain and give a reason for everything. There always needs to be a backstory, there always needs to be a twist, and don't get me wrong, mystery, setup, and payoff, these are all markings of great scripts and storytelling in general. But exploitation films are beautifully simple in that there's usually not a reason. There's usually not a long, boring, expository explanation for why all this madness has been happening. And that's what makes Halloween so special. There's no need to explain and identify every reason why any of this madness is happening, because there is no reason. There is no express reason given as to why Michael Myers kills. There's no express reason given as to why Michael Myers is specifically killing these people in the movie. Unless we're talking about Halloween 2, but we're not, because it's not even canon anymore. The closest semblance of an explanation we're given as to why Michael Myers is this vicious and brutal is given to us by his psychiatrist, Dr. Loomis, who is hunting him down after his escape from the mental institution. Now, Dr. Loomis is a terrible psychiatrist who it's ridiculous that he got to this point in the first place.
Get your ass away from there.
And he'll tell anyone who gives him the time of day that Michael Myers is simply evil.
6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Purely from appearances, he's a normal part of a white suburban family. We hear nothing of abuse, we hear nothing of bullying, we hear nothing of any evolution from a boy as to why he started killing, we hear nothing of any trauma of any kind to explain away his insanity. Michael Myers is simply evil. And that is so fucking scary. The scariest thing is the unknown. What could be lurking in the shadows at night? What could be hiding in the mind of a killer? But when you take any and all reasoning away and present it for just what it is, a maniac killing people in increasingly brutal ways, there's no reasoning with it. There's no understanding it. There is just fearing it. And it is a perfect representation of that. And that's basically the film's thesis statement, and what separates it from all the exploitation films that came before it. With the exploitation films, there wasn't necessarily any self-awareness. The reason a lot of them don't have any explanation or reasoning is that there's no time for it. We gotta see kills, we gotta see boobies, we gotta see all the cool stuff. We don't have any time for expository dialogue or tragic backstories. But in Halloween, that's precisely the point. Michael Myers is the thing everyone fears. He is the shadows you stay away from at night. He is the boogeyman. And you can't kill the boogeyman.
I killed him.
You can't kill the boogeyman.
Tone and atmosphere built around the style and the concept of just pure evil is so palpable it hurts. Michael Myers stalking his victims because why not? Seeing it from his perspective makes it feel so creepy and perverted, and the lack of understanding and reason makes it all the more terrifying. And a lot of later horror films would learn from this and use it to their advantage. And the best thing about it is it's simple. It is simple, straight to the point, and so terrifying. So simple, in fact, that the original name for the film was just The Babysitter Murders. Michael Myers isn't even credited as Michael Myers in the first movie. He's credited as The Shape, a vague menace that you cannot understand. The film's ending is literally Michael disappearing and then a series of lingering, empty shots focused on shadows. You can't get more clear than that. But folks, we haven't even talked about the other star of the show. That's right, the other star of the show. In Black Christmas, there was the final victim who managed to outlast and survive the killer. And we have that again here, but even more care and detail is given to Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis in her film debut. This is her first film, and I don't exactly know if this is the reason for her casting, but Jamie Lee Curtis had connections to horror from birth, as her mother, Janet Leigh, was in a little movie, you may have heard of it, called _Psycho. When your mother is in, let's be real, the most iconic horror scene of any film ever, yeah, you kind of have a decent cred there. But God, did she make a name for herself from the get-go. Laurie Strode is a shy, awkward teen girl. She's bookish, she's a virgin, and that sets her apart from all her friends / Michael's victims. Laurie's babysitting 2 kids in the movie, and by the end, has to serve as their protector. And by no means is she cut out for it. It's an unknowable, inescapable horror that no normal person should ever have to face. But she does. And she survives purely by wit and the will to live. And this, alongside films like Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw Massacre in particular, popularized the final girl trope. And this was just the last perfectly crafted nail in the coffin. Or maybe taken out of a coffin, so a trope could be born, because it's technically coming to life, but that would make it a zombie. You get my point, misguided metaphors aside. And Jamie Lee Curtis acts and performs the hell out of it. This completely normal, completely incidental person in the wrong place at the wrong time, having to go against pure evil. and winning. Now, I don't even have to say how many horror films learned from this and ran with it. Halloween is so iconic and influential, not because it invented these tropes, and not even because it's a perfect movie, but it is largely a perfect execution of all of these tropes and a perfect understanding of what makes them scary to begin with. Later horror films like Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play, all of the greats, all would take from Halloween, because Halloween was the new standard for all this. It was the new standard because it perfectly explained and understood why you should fear the boogeyman. And the sad thing is, a lot of the sequels would even forget this. The second one, adding a ham-fisted twist where Laurie Strode is actually Michael Myers' sister, or adding a backstory and reasoning to Michael Myers, like in part 6, where they say he's a pawn of a cult that is using him and forcing him into an incestuous relationship for a ritualistic birth. It gets so misguided and maligned later on, but all the best sequels took the best elements and ran with them. H2O brings back Laurie Strode and focuses on the final girl trope, and examines why that concept is so effective and compelling. The 2018 hard reboot that ignores all of the sequels and directly ties in to the first film taking place 40 years later exactly, retains that smart angle while also bringing back the concept of unknowable, true, pure evil. And surprise, surprise, it's the best sequel, unless we're counting Halloween 3, which fans hated at the time for not even having Michael Myers in it, but it's a good movie. We need a sequel to that. Bring back Tom Atkins. He's like ancient right now, but who cares? He's still fucking awesome. No more ancient than John Carpenter is, and he's still fucking making the music for this shit. Oh yeah, did I mention that? John Carpenter makes the score for almost all of his movies, including Halloween. So yeah, John Carpenter made one of the best horror themes ever. And it's so iconic largely due to it being so simple. You hear that and you immediately get it. Here comes the boogeyman. With the new one coming out, I just wanted to go back and talk about some shit I found interesting. I know I didn't add much to the conversation, but I just like giving respect to shit I respect. Halloween deserves every ounce of respect it gets. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share it with your friends, maybe subscribe for more. What are your thoughts on all this? Do you like Halloween? Are you excited for the new one coming out? Let me know down in the comments. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Halloween, the night he came home.